I'm Paul Middlemiss. I run Merchant and Found. We sell vintage furniture. And I want to tell you a little bit about the company Tolix and also the history of chairs and chair manufacturing. So just to give you context, this is a bentwood chair. Really kind of transformed the production of chairs in a volume way back in the 19th century. So you all recognize this chair. I'm showing it because Michael Tonnet, who invented the concept of bending chairs, changed the way that chairs were produced because he could mass produce this chair. So this was not this particular design, but the idea of a bentwood chair was an iconic stage in chair production. That changed again in a really interesting way in the early 20th century. When a company called Tolix came along, and this is a very early late 1920s A chair. In fact, I'll show you because you hopefully will recognize this chair. This is a very, very famous metal chair called a Tolix A chair that's been produced since the 1930s. So this one's a 1950s version. This one is a very, very early prototype version of it from, I think, the late 1920s. Xavier Pochot was the founder of Tolix. He is a Frenchman, or was a Frenchman, who was a metal producer. So originally he produced for the farming industry feed buckets, bins, watering troughs, all made of steel, watering cans, that sort of thing. And in the 1920s, he saw the demand, the Industrial Revolution, mass production, and people wanted more chairs. And he had the idea, well, I'm a metal manufacturer, I can produce a metal chair. What does it need to be? It needs to stack and it needs to last. So he used his skill and his techniques to develop this chair. He wasn't a designer, he was a producer and a manufacturer. The thing that he invented, which was phenomenal, is he invented the process of, or he used the process of galvanization, which is adding zinc to metal under a chemical process that protected the metal from corrosion. So he's famous for doing that with his production of feed bins and buckets and things like that. But he did it for chairs as well. So he said to himself, I need to come up with a way of mass producing chairs out of metal for cafes in France, outside, because they've got the weather, galvanize them so they last, make them stackable, and that's what he came up with. And this is essentially made, you can see there's a seat section, which is, it's just, you can see it, it's very thin steel, it's 2-3mm steel. There's the seat section here, which is one component. The legs are another component. The back rail is another one. 4 legs, this is welded on the back. This piece is stamped. So when you make a saucepan or something out of steel, you have a mold, the steel is put on top, and it's pressed into that shape under huge pressure. So this is literally stamped and pushed out of metal. And it's welded. That's just a piece of, that's a solid bar that's welded on here, and then there's a frame underneath here to support it. In those days when he made the feet, you can see here, this is sheet metal that was formed around a mold, and it was welded here to form that strength bit here, but it was basically just wrapped, and you can see how its components in here are welded to the seat. I can tell it's a very early one because the shape is so different, but this detail here where they stamped in here is amazing. So this is very early. It's actually weirdly not the most expensive chair, which I find shocking. And I bought that, or I found that literally in a market in France. This is a very similar version. This is a slightly later version, but you can compare the difference. This one hasn't got the same sort of, it's a slightly more subtle design here. The seat's basically the same. He squared off the shape of the back because it was easier to produce. You can see this detail still here, but it's slightly more refined. I think that's the main difference. He's put a slightly different hole pattern in the seat, but it's basically the same chair, slightly later version. The main difference is the back rail, which you can compare to here. So probably late 20s, mid to early 30s, and this is a 1950s version of the same chair. Now, Tolix is the most famous company in the world for producing this chair. When it got into mass production in the 40s, mainly after the war, there was a lot of competition. So I'm going to show you the competitors at the time. In fact, I'll leave that one as a reference. So the British had a competitor, and this is the British version. So this is an Evertow chair, made in Birmingham. This one's fabulous. It still has the original branding sticker on the back. It has the original paint. This one's absolutely stunning because it has the original upholstered seat and the upholstered back. But essentially, it's the same type of chair, and it's stackable. So if I had another one, it stacks on top, the legs go here. This one's incredibly original. It has the original wooden plug. So if you look at the Tolix chair, he wrapped it the other way. This way, it's wrapped this way. And this bit is wrapped around a wooden plug to give it strength. These are all the original wooden plugs. The feet, I should probably take off because the rubber feet are not original. They've probably been put on to protect someone's floor, but I've left them because I like them. So that is the British competitor to Tolix by a company called Evertow. They still exist, they're still in Birmingham, but they make contract seating for theatres and cinemas. Sadly, they don't make a metal chair anymore, which I find very sad. There was a Belgian competitor, so I have another example. This is by a company called Fibrosit. I'm not sure about my pronunciation, but it has the original sticker on the back. Essentially, it's the same production, slightly different design. You can see it's virtually a copy of the same chair. So that's the Belgian version, 1930s, 1940s. Then there was another French company, and this one is called a multiples chair. Obviously it's an armchair, but you can see it's basically the same design of chair. Sometimes they have a sticker on the back. This one sadly doesn't. It has the original wood seat. Sometimes it's wood, sometimes it's upholstered, sometimes it's metal. It has the arms, all handmade, hand welded, and you can see the different detail at the back. Same wooden plugs to shape the feet. So again, a 1930s, 1940s, hard to date. Beautiful armchair, incredibly strong, very comfortable. Multiples, Fibrosit, Evertow, Tolix, all massive competitors in the day. These guys, Multiples and Leon, no longer exist. I think these guys still exist, but they don't produce chairs anymore like this. They're a bit like Evertow. Evertow still exists in Birmingham. Tolix has gone on and thrived and continued to develop. So they are the maker that succeeds. And we still sell now brand new Tolix chairs as well as vintage.